What is the truth in the stories we are told? We've been given a story of a world fueled by separation. We've become separate from one another, separate from the earth, ultimately separate from the true nature of ourselves. It's time we learn the truth. It's time you rewrite your story. It's time to realign with who it is that you really are. This is the fifth dimension.
You are infinite and eternal. We are infinite and eternal.
Our natural essence, we could say, is simply being.
We have this awakening coming together as a perfect storm.
We're ready for this. We have the capacity inside. We just got to find that.
All right. We are on the air. Brandon Bozarth, thank you for taking the time to come on the podcast, brother. It's great to connect with you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to dive in.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. And, I'd love to start just by, if you could give the listeners a little background on who you are, the work that you do, but I would also love to hear about your own journey and, how you began to, question your own belief systems, sort of come into your current way of being, you could say, and, doing the phenomenal work you're doing now.
Well, how much time do you have? A day? No, I'll give you the short version. I appreciate the question. So I moved to the East Coast. This was probably now maybe 5 years ago, something around that time frame. And I was in network marketing and had a passion for network marketing, had a passion for helping people. And throughout my life, had these little moments of the universe, God, goddess, whatever you want to call it, just giving me opportunities to wake up. I was like given here's a Deepak Chopra book when I was like 12 or a tape when I was like 12, and I had a headache and it taught me how to cure a headache. And I remember curing my own headache going, well, there's something to this. And in high school, having moments of just going, what the heck is going on? I think a lot of people can relate to that state of being. This is the world? What is going on? And I started a club in high school called, we called it the Brotherhood, which seems super secret society-ish, but it was really the opposite. It was like about exposing secret societies and conspiracies. And I've just had this thread of questioning, taking the veil off, what's going on my entire life. But I never did any of the shadow work. I never did any of the forgiveness work. So it was as if like over the years and then finding all the different teachers, the Abrahams, the Eckharts, Bashar, Deepak Chopra, all of these teachers, taking it all in and acquiring like regurgitated concepts, but it never made it to an embodied way of being, really. And so here I am on the East Coast, probably about 5 years ago. I'm doing steroids. I'm partying Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night. I'm sleeping with any woman that would look at me just to get a temporary break from my own mind and to feel the connection that I was craving. And I just reached a point where I was sitting on the couch and I said, if I keep doing this for another year or so, I'm not going to want to be here anymore. And it was just like this moment where I said, I cannot do this anymore. And it's like as if all of those teachings came in that moment. It was like, it's time to do this, not just think about it, not just go meditate in your room, but time to do it. And I just started doing the opposite of everything that I was doing. I went vegan. I stopped using steroids. I went celibate for a certain amount of time to just experience what that was like for about 6 months. And I just started making these changes. And within about 2 weeks, I put an email out. This is really what changed everything. And the email that I put out ended up landing in the inbox of a woman moments before she was going to kill herself. Now, a little context. Right before that, I was still in network marketing. And I realized if I'm not living 100% in my passion, not just 99, but really letting myself be my authentic self. And that's my service, is being myself. And who is that? And what is that? uh, I felt I had to walk away from network marketing. And so I cut off my income. I walked away. I had no money. All the money I was making, I was a top income earner. I was blowing all of it. So here I am going, okay, Brandon, go follow your highest excitement. And all that is go to the gym, put out newsletters, do Facebook Lives. Where's the money making in that equation? Where's the security? And that was really okay, I'm jumping off the cliff and I believe that I'm going to be caught. And even though I was still having conflict with beliefs around being supported and whatnot, but anyway, I did leap. And within a couple of weeks, I sent this email out, and this woman was sitting in her car looking at the beach with a handful of sleeping pills. And she said, well, I was going to take the pills and then go in the ocean and go to sleep. And she's a renowned medium, one of the best in the world, in my opinion, in Australia. And she said that her guide said, before you take those pills, turn the radio on. And she turned the radio on and a song played. And word for word, the song said, you should stay a little bit longer. Mm-hmm. And in that next moment, she got my email that was entitled, I'm excited to die. And it was this catchy way of me saying, yes, when we die, we leave behind all the pain, the guilt, the shame, all of these things. But we don't have to die to experience what the other side could be like now. And she responded, said, I want you to coach me. And she didn't take the pills, obviously. She sat there, she cried. She said, I got to stay. And I want you to coach me. I go, what the heck's a coach? Why don't we just get on a call? I'll just share with you what has helped me. And we did that. And it was a complete life-changing conversation, because I realized that what Buddha calls the beginner's mind, having no expectation, getting on with no definition of I'm a coach and you're someone who is the coachee, or this should be the outcome, having zero expectation of a future, of an outcome, and just being with that person was enough to give them permission to heal themselves. And I went, whoa, this is really powerful. Maybe this is why I'm here. Fast forward, I meet a mentor who I spend my last $300 to go live on his couch. I go, teach me everything you know. He's a pretty world-renowned men's coach. Puts me through just trials and trials and trials of retreats and workshops, and just looking at all the stuff that I wasn't looking at. And eventually, when I found the work of Byron Katie, which, the 4 questions and the turnarounds, eventually through all of the questioning of my beliefs, I started to have experiences that I really couldn't explain, of having questioned so much of who I think I am, of what I think reality is, that someone could, my girlfriend one time, I was in this just state of going, I don't know anything, and I don't know what this whole thing is. And it was just this like profound love for that state of openness. And this is years since, meeting my mentor, of just doing the inquiry, and sometimes it would be every day. Something would come up and I was given this new set of tools. Hey, if something comes up, that means you're ready to integrate it. Doesn't mean do anything else. That means stop, inquire, sit with it, feel it, move through it. That's why we're here. That's the evolution. So I would do that almost every time. I'd just sit, and some of my relationships at the time would be like, man, you really, everything that comes up, you have to just look at it and talk about it. And I'm like, you seem a little obsessed. And I go, I am, obsessed with freedom. So I would have these moments where Ashley, this happened, I don't even know now, maybe 6 or 8 months ago, more recent, gave me a celery juice. And this was one of the week or two where I was in this state of like no mind or no person or no definitions, of just pure in love with what is. And here's some celery juice. And I look at it and I couldn't even believe that it was celery juice. I said, is it true? Is this what is this? Without the word celery juice, I don't know what this is. I genuinely have no idea what this is. And I'm looking at it and I'm laughing on the inside going, what is this? Without words, without definition. And I'm peering into just the mystery of it. And that I thought that I was, when I started to have those experiences, every single time, eventually I'd have a thought of like, am I going to stay here? This is kind of cool. Feels really liberating. And then slowly it would kind of come back in and integrate, and then there'd be more and it'd be integrating. And so that's kind of just led me here to share everything that has worked for me to really question my own mind.
Right. No, and that's a beautiful journey. And thank you for sharing that. And I resonate with a lot of what you're saying. And especially when you just mentioned the word freedom, that's an idea I've been really playing with lately. And I feel like when we can look at ourselves and the world around us outside of our labels, like our name, like who we think we're supposed to do or like be in terms of our occupation or financial status or all these sort of external circumstances. It's like when we go beyond that, who is it that we actually are? What is it that, because when we have this like veil of identity and circumstances, it sort of places a filter over our lens on the world.
Totally.
And I think it plays into that idea of freedom. I don't know if you wanted to speak more on this. Like freedom is something that is so like, I don't think most people, especially like here in America, a lot of people, we talk about, we want our freedoms and external freedoms. That's a good thing. Not knocking on it, but like, I think it's such a deep and profound concept that a lot of people don't have a full grasp on just because they haven't been exposed to this level of freedom.
Yeah. Well, people think, and I've thought this before as well, is that freedom is something you can gain or lose. And it's really not. It's something that you are without the stories of the ego. So to be free is another word for saying to see real reality, to see what's actual reality, not your projection onto reality, not the beliefs about reality, because reality itself can never not be perfect. It can never cause harm. It can never contain lack. No circumstance can contain lack. And this is where the ego comes in and goes, well, what about people starving? What about this? What about that? Reality is what is happening now. So in this moment, if someone is starving, to say someone is starving is going to imply a process that maybe in the next moment they're not going to receive food, but that's not real right now. Right now, someone is hungry in a moment. And without a story, that's it. And what is hunger? Well, it's a physical sensation. We're talking about emotional suffering. Is it possible to be free while having physical pain? 100%. This is how a lot of people actually end up healing the body, because they go, I was able to see that I'm in pain, but not make it mean that I'm stuck, suffering, small, powerless, or not free. I was able to join with the pain, and now I'm not at war with myself. And how can a body heal if it's at war with itself? So lack, all of these concepts, like if we look at reality, is there lack built into reality, or is that a human creation? Well, it's a human creation. There's enough money in the world. If you spread it equally, everyone would have $1 million. There's enough food in 1 week that is thrown out in the US that could feed the world for a month. One seed can grow into a tree that bears, hundreds of apples, and each apple has hundreds of seeds that can create hundreds of trees. That's the reality. So you go, well, freedom, enlightenment, it's all the same thing. It's seeing reality clearly, which means I can discern my thoughts, or not even my thoughts of my ego from reality. And so that's really the practice, is going, am I believing these thoughts? Are they true? And what I found is any thought that creates stress, bondage, fear is not true. It's not the reality. And so I'm actually upset at a reality that doesn't exist. And when you really realize that, you go, well, then I don't need to change the reality, because it's not even real. I need to change the only thing that I can control, which is my mind. I can't, none of the other stuff is my business. And then all of a sudden there's this huge weight off. People go, oh man, I need to create freedom by changing these things and changing that. And then you put your freedom in the future.
Right.
Well, where's the future created? In the now, with all the choices you're making. So if you're not feeling free now, you're never going to find it in the future. It's like them saying a life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, what does the pursuit of happiness do? Create pursuing. It doesn't create happiness. And this is where most people are. And it's innocent. It's just confusion. And that's really the root of the suffering.
Right. No, definitely. And you put that so beautifully. And I feel like if we look at, society as a whole and sort of the world that we're living in, it really is just an accumulation of a story that we have told through centuries upon centuries. And,
Yeah.
I think a lot of the, if you want to put quote unquote solutions, it comes from just a simple rewriting and embodiment of a new story that has to start at the individual level. I mean, I'm at a place personally, and I'm sure you could attest to this as well. When I bring this up, a lot of people seem to resonate despite the perceived chaos in the story of the world. Me personally, my being, I feel amazing. I'm thriving because I'm sort of detaching from the story and living in the reality. Abundance is something that is a birthright that we are meant to be. We are meant to be enjoying the fruits of abundance and simply being ourselves. And, I think most of the chaos and the suffering and the division and all of what we're seeing, and you mentioned hunger, and like we do have all the resources to simply kind of snap our fingers and change that if we want to, but we need to sort of heal that within ourselves as a collective. If the collective is sort of a macrocosm of what's taking place at the individual level, individual consciousness. So it's no surprise we're seeing what's going on just based on where people are at. And I think personally, it feels like we're in a time where more people are starting to consciously live in reality, consciously detach from the stories that have been told and recognize what is possible. And personally, that gets me feeling excited because I know you talked about this sort of idea of a new earth, and that's something I've talked about as well. And it's like I can feel that within, like I can see it within my lived experience, and what is possible is so further beyond where we are at as a collective. I mean, is sort of abundance in like true freedom, would you say that's sort of like the foundation of this like paradigm shift of the new earth of what we're moving towards?
Yeah, because we can only get to, as an individual, you can only feel free when you've detached from the stories that create bondage, that create suffering. So they go hand in hand. A world of freedom cannot simultaneously be a world of suffering. So how do we get to the freedom? The suffering has to come up so we can be aware of where that might exist in our own mind. And that's the only thing we can control. So suffering in the world comes up, and it shows me very quickly, based on how I respond to it, where that suffering is actually part of my inner world. So I go, man, people shouldn't be dying. People shouldn't be this or that. But what's the reality? They are. And so am I fighting against the reality, which actually perpetuates it? Or am I agreeing with the reality, which doesn't condone it, but it allows me to release the stress of things that I can't control and actually become efficient? Man, there shouldn't be people starving, but there are people starving. That's how I know they should be right now. Why? Because that's the reality. Whether or not I think it should or should not happen, it is what is. It's what's happening. So all I can do is feed people. But if I'm doing that from a place of the life is unfair, there's, this is they're to blame, this is wrong or bad. Now I'm doing it from a place of stress. And then if I go to big corporations that I think are to blame and go, you all need to make sure to give food to people, they are that much less likely to do it because I'm coming at them with anger.
Right.
And what I put out is what I get back. If I'm projecting on them, what's going to most likely happen? they're going to project on me. They're a reflection of my mind. Everything is. So when we realize that, we go, oh my God, there's only one mind I need to free. It's mine. And then everything else will take care of itself. Well, yeah.
Right. Right. Definitely. And I definitely resonate with that. And something I did the other day, actually, as sort of like an activity to practice this sort of freeing the mind, as there's, if we look at the state of the world right now, and especially with like the pandemic and all that's sort of going on with that, a big figure that's coming up is Bill Gates, right? And so I took a picture. I looked at Bill Gates, just took a picture of him, and I just looked at it, and I was like, I'm going to send you love right now.
Nice.
Like, I love you. Like, please accept this love and like do what is, calling in your heart. And it's like, it was difficult to look at that picture at first, because I think it's naturally we want to attach the world's chaos to specific individuals and place blame. Like, it's sort of what we're conditioned to do in our upbringings. But it was very liberating to engage in that practice. And it's something I could plan to continue doing, because there was a part of me that felt free. There was a part of me that recognized, like, he has his own suffering. He has his own karma. He has he's another human being just as I am. Like, we are part of the same thing, where we are one.
Yeah. And that's what you realized, obviously, in that moment, is like, it hurts me to withhold love from you. Why does that hurt me, to withhold love from someone? Because they are me on not just some level, on the only level, that is like I cannot interact with you directly in this conversation. I'm hearing what you're saying. My senses are creating a picture of you. I'm literally creating my own version of you. So if I'm creating my own version of you with my consciousness, am I interacting with you or my consciousness? The answer, of course, paradoxically, is always going to be both. But directly, I'm interacting with my consciousness, and you're being this permission for me to have the experience I need. I'm being permission for you to have the experience that you need. But at the end of the day, I can only interact with my own mind. This is why when we actually bring things to what some people might call this more like meta level, when you can really ground it, there's a lot of freedom, because you will get out of a place. You basically get out of time. You basically go, no, there's nothing I need to do or change in time and space. There's just a perspective shift or miracle that I need now, which is this shift in perception, and I'm free. And so it's like, if I'm holding up a phone and I'm looking at Bill Gates, what I'm actually looking at are all of my concepts of Bill Gates. And then I'm going, if I were Bill Gates doing those things, I would believe these concepts about myself. And let me look at the concepts. He's deceitful. He's guilty. He's a bad person. So is it true? That's when we start going, if I was in that position, do those things define who and what I am at my core? And if we believe that, then we actually believe that something of this world can define who and what we are. And of course, this is where we go, well, I'm this body. This is my one life. What I do defines me. It decides my value, meaning value is something I could lose or gain. Worthiness is something I could lose or gain. So this is what it means in A Course in Miracles, to see with Christ vision means I see you as someone that's actually not of this world. And that you is infinitely worthy, is infinitely innocent, can never and has never been hurt or harmed. But I'll only be able to see you that way if I see me that way. So Bill Gates is going, I'm going to reflect back to all of these people that are holding on, including myself. I've had these thoughts. I'm going to reflect back to everyone beliefs of guilt, deception, this and that, so they can see where they are deceiving themselves by believing they are someone they're not, by judging themselves and creating guilt, because we're all ready to re-identify beyond just this limited identity. That's really, one of my mentors would call it drawing the bigger circle. It's like, if I'm offended, if I'm feeling trapped in a situation, it's only because my identity is this little circle. Oh, I'm just this small self and you're overpowering me and I'm separate and I'm not a creator, right? And then oh, wait a second, maybe this is just an opportunity for me to re-identify as who I really am. And we call those moments ego deaths, but we draw the bigger circle. And that's really what all adversity is here to help us do.
Definitely, definitely. Oh, you put that so beautifully. And I feel like we can view the challenges of the world today, and we can view all that's happening as a moment of opportunity to consciously shift, to
Yeah.
consciously evolve. And it
Yeah.
feels to me like if we weren't actually ready for everything that's going on, individual, collective level, it wouldn't be presenting itself for us to make that leap, for us to take sort of the next step in our conscious evolution
Mhm.
and really redefine ourselves and really rewrite a story, because we all are so much more than the little me perspective, than just our bodies. We are
Yeah.
something that is infinite, eternal. Like we have, it's very much an illusion that we are simply three-dimensional physical beings. Like
Mhm.
we can
Mhm.
interact with the quantum. We can interact with different dimensions and really, you talk about miracles, like manifest abundance, manifest on command when we
Mhm.
truly embody it, right?
Mhm.
Like that's,
Mhm.
and that's something that I've really, especially since the start of this year, been focusing on, really learning, integrating, sort of letting go of the old beliefs about, scarcity that we're programmed in, and uh, reclaiming abundance is something that
Mhm.
I've really um, been finding, and something that's really been finding me, and I've been able to sort of rewrite that story, and I'm seeing it already beginning to sort of shift my day to day and how I go throughout the world. And I think that is it feels like an inevitability that is going to be coming at the collective level. I don't know if I know how to explain it.
No, it's really good. The what came to mind for me is it's, abundance arises when we realize lack doesn't exist.
Right.
So it's like some people think, well, and I've thought this before, I need to learn how to become more abundant. And that is saying right now is not as abundant as it gets. And sometimes we have uh, limited definitions that say abundance looks this way, it does not look this way. But if I have lack in my life, I'm actually experiencing an abundance of lack. It's still abundance. If I have, an abundance of uh, limited food options in my kitchen, that's what I have an abundance of. I have an abundance of what is, of what I have. And it's only my belief that says what is should be what it isn't. You know, what is should be what isn't. And in that moment, I create the lack.
Right.
But if you couldn't believe, if the world, if anyone couldn't believe that they could die, you know, permanently, then just that one belief and many others, that one belief, you'd go, well, then it doesn't really matter if I eat or not. It doesn't even really matter if I breathe or not. I actually don't need anything. And that's one of the first gateways in the 13 that we talk about, is called the gateway of needlessness. When I acknowledge I actually need nothing, I don't even need to breathe in order to know that I'm free, infinite, and eternal, right? Then I've achieved this state of actually having everything. Because then I look around and go, but yet here I am with more than I need to breathe, with more than I need to eat, with more than I need to be alive. How can I never not be abundant? So it's like that I is replaced. There's a small I that goes, I'm going to be abundant based on conditions. And then you have a whole coaching industry that goes, now I'm going to teach you how to be abundant by creating conditions,
Right.
which actually can perpetuate scarcity by going, if you don't have these conditions, that means you're living in scarcity. And this is what abundance looks like. No. There's a higher conversation that says it's all abundance in different forms. Where are some forms being more valued than other forms? And that's called attachment. And when I attach to form, I end up worshiping it like a god. I go, I need the money to give me freedom. I need the relationship to give me connection. And I'm stating to myself, I don't have freedom right now until then. I don't have connection until then. And it's that very thought that is making me feel not free and disconnected. And so then I get the thing, I feel a temporary relief, and then it comes back and I go, oh, I must need more money. I must need a different relationship. And the cycle of seeking continues and continues and continues.
Right. Right. It's that attachment to the material world in general, whether it be money, relationships, all of it. It leaves you in that perpetual cycle of seeking and never feeling the contentment, because that contentment, true fulfillment, that has to be generated within. That has to be something that you recognize is already there. I mean, because we could look at it, all that we ever have in life is the present moment. And over 99% of present moments generally are peaceful. I mean, I had a conversation recently where somebody said that, and like, unless you're getting stabbed, like, it's probably pretty peaceful.
Yeah. And I'd even say, even if you're getting stabbed, because here's the thing, having body consciousness reactions is very different than mental and emotional suffering. If I can't find a reason to fear death, which is really when the fear of death leaves you, is when all of the reasons your ego goes, this is why it's bad or wrong, when all of those have been questioned and released, then when death comes up, those voices might come up in the moment, but you've already detached from them. So you see them and you go, wait, that doesn't make any sense. I'm not going to believe that. And sometimes you might laugh and go, that's funny. Right. I used to believe that. So if, I can get stabbed, but if I don't have a thought that says I need to live, or if I don't have a thought that says I shouldn't be getting stabbed when I am, how do I know I need to get stabbed? I'm being stabbed. So I can join with that reality, or I could hold on to the stress of going, that shouldn't have happened. This shouldn't have happened. This shouldn't have happened. And then I can create a future. Now this is going to lead to this. This is going to lead to that. Well, all of those thoughts have nothing to do with the reality. I'm stabbed. Without a story, that's it. It just ends there. Oh, I'm stabbed. It hurts. I'm in a lot of pain. I need to do something about it.
Right.
That's it. You can actually be told, you can have adrenaline running through your body because your body's going, I'm going to fix this and handle it. But you can be totally centered and peaceful. And why do we do that? Some people go, well, then you wouldn't go do the thing you need to do to heal yourself. You wouldn't, and my question is that true? Because removing negative stress from the mind doesn't keep you from being active. And if it did, then everyone that would have woken up would just be sitting on the couch staring at a wall. But people that are waking up are the most active people, because love is an active force. It just moves through you. It's like, I'd say every human can relate to if they see a wounded baby animal or child, and that you just want to help. You just have this instinct. I want to help. I want to support that. Well, what is that? That's love moving through you. What's needed in this situation? Well, I have a perfectly clear mind, so I'll just do it. There's no hesitation. That's how efficient, I call it moving at the speed of your spirit. There's no interruption now, just your spirit. Boom. Oh, I'm stabbed. Probably need to do something about this. Most efficient route, calculate, call this person, you do that, you do this. And I'm not in confusion. I'm not exerting more energy because I'm so stressed and going, this is so bad. Well, that's not going to help.
Right.
So once we start to see that it's just more efficient, it's not a matter of right or wrong. It's not a matter of, well, I should do this because it's going to make me, and that's what enlightenment looks like. No, it goes, for the love of freedom, for the love of what's actually true, I'm going to question my mind and realize that it's the most efficient path.
Right. And I think when we take on this sort of doing approach, I've noticed this in myself, we never have enough to where we feel like we need to do. And we're constantly stressed. We're constantly looking for more paths. But if you're actually just sort of being myself, being just in this present moment, everything sort of just falls into place. There isn't the actual like passiveness, like you mentioned. Like when you're just being, you're being yourself, we are creators. So naturally we're going to put ourselves into action, into whatever the heart is calling us towards.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the most, I guess you could say, profound creations are made, where the most change is made.
Yeah.
Especially, at the individual and collective level. It's from people consciously following the heart and letting that lead. And so, I've definitely had to sort of make that shift, because I used to be sort of, especially even early on in my spiritual journey, it was like, it's sort of like, I need to read this book, or I need to do this,
same.
and acquire that knowledge. And it's like, I loved the idea of enlightenment, but I don't think, as long as you're seeking, you're never going to actually quote unquote find enlightenment. Like it's very paradoxical, because it's just in
funny
presence.
Because it's like, I can't actually even find enlightenment. It's like, it is what's there all of the time. To think I need to even find it, you know what I mean, is going, it's something, there's a process I need to do. And then immediately I'm in time. I'm out of it. It's like the phrase, when I look for it, I leave it. Right. So this is why it's so hard to describe for so many of the sages of the planet, because they go, the moment I describe it, I give it form, I give it a definition, and I'm already out of it, So it's like, it's because it's before that, and it's before that. So, it's like something you said, I think is really important, that the doing, well, we will do things because we think it serves us. We will move away from things because we believe it doesn't serve us. So that's when we just have to have the inquiry. Why do I believe I need to do this? What do I believe I could gain? And we go, well, if I read all the books, because man, I spent years doing this, and I'll still have the thoughts come up. Why do I think I need to learn this? Why do I think I need to figure all this out? It's like, oh, well, then I'll know more. Okay, what do I think it'll give me to know more? Well, people will believe me. And what would you get, Brandon, if people believed you? Validation, and if you got validation from them, what would you make that mean? I'm enough, I'm doing enough, and I'm going to be supported in life. Well, isn't it funny that me pursuing something to try to get support makes me feel right now that I'm not supported? So I'll actually attract the opposite. I'll attract never figuring it out and people that don't understand, because I'm not understanding me, So I go, oh, maybe I'm just reflecting all of that. I'm creating this whole process to show myself where I'm not free. And that's the beauty of life. I will attract to myself an experience, people, or circumstance to show me where I'm not letting myself be free.
Right.
So then all of a sudden you go, wait a second. Some of these things that I used to think doing was valuable. Like there's some things that I could do that is more valuable than others. Is it true? Who's to say that sitting on the couch isn't the best way you can serve humanity? Isn't the way that when someone's sitting on the couch, that's where they are. There's no mistake. That's the reality. In reality, there's no mistake. It's just what is. And what is what needs to be happening. So you're on the couch, you're doing, quote, nothing. Well, even that's something. And that's how you're meant to be serving the world. It only hurts when you go, or someone goes, this is not enough. I should be doing more. And when we really look at that, we can laugh at it, because we go, how can I do more than I'm doing? Doesn't make any sense. I can't do more than what I'm doing, because I'm doing what I'm doing. I can't do more than it ever. So who would I be without that thought? I would just let myself do nothing. I'd feel really good about it. And I just sit here, and that might lead to an awakening and insight and whatever it might lead to, that is 10 times more valuable to you and your growth than going and reading the books.
Right.
Yeah.
No, definitely. And if you think about it, I mean, meditation is sort of the act a lot of times of doing nothing. It's simply being. So it's very, you put that in such a beautiful, profound way that, we don't need to worry about, because there's times where I have the story that will run. It's like, I feel like I need to be doing more to help serve this purpose or find this mission. And it's
Yeah.
like, but it always comes back to the idea that like, I'm doing what I can do and I'm being myself. And
Yeah.
whatever sort of the result of that is,
Yeah.
it is what it is. It is what
Right.
it is, right? And,
Exactly.
I personally can't choose the collective direction by any means. I can be myself. I can spread, love and peace and be who I'm meant to be. And whatever happens from that will happen. But the
Mhm.
collective is going to move in the collective direction that it moves. And I think
Yeah. Yeah.
accepting that is sort of, for me, been a very large part of finding inner peace and being okay with whatever happens, because we are infinite and eternal beyond this lifetime, beyond
Yeah.
our labels, beyond the everything that is going on. And I think that's a very profound concept to embody,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, do you have specific tools, tips that you give when you work with clients on sort of
Hmm.
embodying this and making that sort
Yeah.
of subtle shift? What do you find most helpful?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one thing you said I want to speak to real quick, and then I'll share some tools, is that, when I work with a client, if I want to create a certain result or outcome, I know that I'm crazy because I know that I can't.
Mm.
And I know it's not my job. And so anytime that we are focused on wanting to create an impact, wanting to create, and this is so, because you'll get so much rewarding for wanting to create impact. It's such a great way to say, I am a good person. Hey world, I'm doing good things. Because one of our core desires is to be innocent, because that's God's original state. Before any story, before the Big Bang or the creation of all that is, if we were to put it in a linear thing, it's just undefined isness that doesn't know itself. That's what
Right.
innocence is. That's why when we look at a dog, the dog doesn't know it's innocent. It doesn't try. It just is. And that makes it even more adorable, more innocent, So we go, well, I know that's part of my nature. So I have this gravity that pulls me to be innocent. And so many times I'll use things like, I want to create impact. I want to create results. I want to make a positive change to show myself that I'm innocent. And even that is a step away from innocence, because innocence does not need to prove it's innocent. Innocence looks at that thought and goes, that's a cute, innocent thought. And it's not true. So who would I be without it? And from that place, we go, okay, now I'm just doing this because I love it. Now I'm just sharing this with you because it's fun, because it brings me joy, because this is who and what I am. That is my only motivation, to be myself. And what does everyone want? That, their own version of that. So what's the best way to teach it? Be it,
Right.
And so just wanted to touch on that.
No, I love that.
Yeah, as far as the tools, we created something called integrated self-inquiry. So Byron Katie, I love Byron Katie. I think she's one of the masters of the planet right now. And she created the 4 questions. Is it true? Who would you be without that thought? Well, technically, is it true? Can you absolutely know that it's true? Anytime a thought comes up that is stressful, you ask the question, is it true? Can I absolutely know that it's true? Who would I be without that thought? And, oh no, sorry. Is it true? Can I absolutely know that it's true? When I believe the thought, what do I do? Or how do I feel? Who would I be without that thought? And it's really beautiful because it allows you to take a thought or a belief or a story that you're holding on to, and when we hold on to it, we bend the light. It's like the light's shining through us, and all of a sudden I'm getting this rigid belief that becomes opaque, and the light doesn't shine through it. It becomes bent into some other distortion. So I'm just looking at where I'm bending that light, and I'm going, is this true? I can't get rid of it. There's nowhere to put beliefs. There's nowhere to put thoughts. They exist. They can never not exist. Everything that exists is. That's its nature. Can't ever go away because it's all here and now. So here it is. But I can decide if I want to believe it or not, if I want to identify with it. And those questions and then the 4 turnarounds give you permission to completely detach from the thought. What we have done is we've taken that to what we call integrated self-inquiry. Integrated self-inquiry takes a little more time around the emotion, where there's a moment where we really spend time with the thought to bring to the root. And one way we do that is we add a phrase called, and that means. So for example, you might go, my partner just looked at me funny and then left the room, and I feel really upset. Now you can do inquiry and you can go, my partner looked at me funny, is it true? And you can go through the process. But we want to find what you're making that mean about yourself. And this is all about the understanding that I can't have an emotion unless I have a belief about something first, unless I have a story about something. Someone came up to me and spoke a foreign language, and I had no idea what it means. I wouldn't have a strong emotional response. I'd go, I don't really know what you're saying.
Right.
But if I had a belief that says that means something good, I feel good. That means something bad, I feel bad. They could be talking in some language and calling me the worst words. But if I think it's good, I have the experience of good. So who's determining my emotions? Always me. That's always me. And it's just a reflection or a window into my beliefs. So we go right into the root. So we'll go, okay, my partner looked at me funny and then left the room. And that means, and just let the ego speak. And that means she doesn't like me. She's upset at me. Okay. If she's upset at me, then that means, and we'll just keep digging until the I starts coming in. That means I'm doing something wrong. If I'm doing something wrong, then that means what about me? And I'll dig, and I know that I find it because there's more emotion around it. All of a sudden, boom, my body lights up. Man, it means that I'm a really bad person. Ooh, I feel that. That's the moment to go, okay, step 2, I'm now aware of the belief through asking the questions. Questions can be, what am I making this about me? Or it could be, this is what happened and this hurts. And that means what? And that means what? And you just dig and you dig and you dig. Find this belief that has more charged emotion, and then you stop. The second step is acknowledge. So I become aware of the belief, and now I acknowledge it. That means I make it equal to any other belief. And this is the hardest part for people because this is the emotional part. We cannot get to any sort of resolution if we are not feeling the emotion fully. Right. So because it's just about unconditional love. It's about joining. And I love this quote from A Course in Miracles. It says, you can't have peace and understanding separately. You can only have them together. Where there's understanding, there's peace. If you're not peaceful and you think you understand something, you don't, because you're confused. Right. So how do I have understanding? I have to first be at peace with the belief. I have to look at my innocence. I have to go, whoa, I thought this about myself. I thought this about them. And when I did, I acted this way. I projected that. Wow, that's okay. That's innocent. It might not be okay in the sense of, well, I don't want to do it again. It doesn't feel good. But I can look at it and go, that had to happen. Why? Because it did. Because that was the best that I could do with these beliefs. And now these beliefs are here that I can look at, and I could love myself. I could realize I'm not those things. But I had to experience that to realize that. So I forgive. It's called forgiveness. I look at I accept that happened. And I just do that by not holding on to anything that would cause me to resist it. People think acceptance is a thing you do. No. It just happens when you stop resisting it. So emotion comes up and I just let it come up. Sometimes I could look like I close my eyes and I just breathe into it and go, okay, that happened. I believe that. And this is what happened. Okay. No story. Fundamentally, it's neutral. That's the gift of God. That's why there's free will, because there's no built-in meaning. There's no one, this situation means that, and this one means that. It's up to us. We're co-creators. So I could look at that and remind myself that is neutral. That experience actually has no built-in meaning. Although I did think it had meaning then, now I realize it doesn't. And that's when we can start assigning new meaning. That's when we can start questioning it, going through the questions, going through the turnarounds. You can look into Byron Katie's work because we often use those turnarounds. And then eventually choosing your own meaning. okay, well, man, I really thought that this person hurt me. And I questioned that. I realized I hurt me. And when I felt hurt from them, I hurt them. I tried to hurt them. So now that I forgive that, now I'm going to make that mean that, this is an opportunity for me to love them and myself. That's why this happened. Now I'm going to act that way. I'm going to go love them. I'm going to go share with them that my process, and love myself. And it takes that action to really ground it into reality. It doesn't always have to be a conversation. It doesn't even have to be anything to do with the other person, but some new choice that represents the shifts you feel emotionally it grounds it into physical reality, because this is a physical reality. We have to do physical things to change it. At least right now, most of us can't sit here and go, okay, computer, disappear. Right now, we have to do it physically. So same thing, so I question my beliefs and then I make a new choice. Last thing that I'll say about integrated self-inquiry is that it's also oriented around the individual's passion, because we believe that there's two sides to the coin. Number one, I'm questioning my mind to release thoughts of confusion and suffering. Is it true? What am I making this believe about me? I find the belief. Every time you find a belief, you'll see it doesn't make sense. That's the actual mechanism that allows you to no longer believe it. You have to see for yourself. This person hates me? Is it true? I'm a bad person? Is that real? Or is that a fact or just a belief? Once you see that doesn't make any sense, that's not my belief, it's gone. People think you then got to go burn it and snort the ashes and do 17 ceremonies. None of that does anything unless you believe it does.
Right.
So you go, oh, I just see it doesn't make sense. The brain can't hold on to something that doesn't make sense. It's like me saying, Evan, can you accept that this is green? You're going to be like, my brain says orange.
Right.
I can't tell you with 100% conviction it's green.
Right.
Same thing happens when you really look at a belief that causes stress. You just go, I can't. But you have to actually accept it first, right? So on the other side of that, when that energy is freed up, you're now more available to let that light shine through and not be bended. And that typically looks like inspiration and passion. So we always say, it's like, once you release something, what are some next steps in the direction of your inspiration and passion? Because that is what's going to carry you into a different identity, into different circumstances, is actually by making the new choices.
Right. Definitely. I feel like it comes down to that sort of the mentality of embodiment of victim versus sort of creator, because we are the divine creators naturally. But when we hear about sort of, being a victim, it's sort of the detachment from being a creator itself and holding on to those beliefs. And I think that's a big, I feel like I noticed that a lot throughout society today, sort of the victim embodiment. And also, just the lack of questioning. And, and sometimes I wonder, like, why is it that people can't see what's going on at the collective level, for example? But I feel like it's because we have to start with questioning ourselves. I wasn't questioning the world around me until I questioned my own belief systems, until I questioned how I viewed myself and what was the lens I was looking at, to look at the rest of the world. And so I think the willingness to question, it's almost like a willingness. We have to sort of give ourselves permission, because but it's interesting because we look at, I come from an education background, and by the time kids reach middle and high school, the age that I'm normally working with them, they're not always questioning so much. But if you look at smaller kids, I have a 5-year-old cousin who I see pretty regularly. She questions everything. She asks why, how come, what about this? What about, it's really seeing and experiencing and attempting to understand. And that hasn't been conditioned out of her yet. And it's like, I feel like questioning is our natural mode of being. It's our natural essence. And it's, one of my missions is to help people, help kids in particular, hold on to that. Like, let's reform how we bring about our future generations so that they're always actively questioning and
Yes.
engaging in these processes
Yeah.
that come naturally. It's like this innocence that that we have naturally. It's just it's all about a return to who we are, an embodiment of who we are. And it's
Yeah.
like, what would the world look like if we never lost touch with that? If we
Yes.
never
We'd have a lot of
disconnected?
open minds.
Right.
And that's the number one thing that will keep someone from freedom is a closed mind, because open mind is an open heart, closed mind, closed heart. Same thing. You know, if I think of mind of consciousness, as my consciousness, my awareness, well, my awareness is projecting my body. So everything that has to do with my body is going to be a reflection on some level of my consciousness. So if I'm closed, everything's closed. If I'm open, everything's open. And that's the moment healing takes place, when I go, maybe what I think is so just ain't so. Maybe what I think I know just ain't so. And what I think I know that's causing me stress maybe is not real. And we have to be willing to not be right for the sake of peace. And this is so challenging for many egos, because we go, well, I get a lot out of being right. I get acknowledgement. I get validation. And we have to be willing to give up the specialness of the ego, which says, I need things in this world to be a certain way in order for me to feel special and good. We have to be willing to give that up, essentially for God's love, essentially for the love that says, I don't need that. I already am that. And that could be really challenging for people, because they could feel like, well, if I give up my victim story, I'm also giving up all these things that it's giving me. And you have to look at, how is this serving me? And many people will say, oh, my victim pattern, it's not serving me. But if you're aware of it and you're choosing it, on some level, you believe it is serving you. So you have to actually bring awareness to, if I'm choosing to be a victim, it must be for a reason that I believe benefits me. Does it keep me safe? Does it give me love? Does it keep me from fully committing to something? Does it keep me from fully shining, from being powerful? Do I think if I'm fully powerful, I'm going to hurt or harm other people? You know, there's as many beliefs as there are people. So that's a really important part for the victim story, is to go, we're always going to do something because we believe it serves us. And that's why it's so innocent, because serve us to what? Serve us for what? Serve us to feel love. So everyone's action is either extending love or calling for help. And when they're in the victim story, it's a call for help that comes from a confusion place that says, the only way I can get love is by attempting to get this from you, or I have to be this victim, or whatever it might be. And the truth is that's the only thing keeping away the love. Right.
Definitely. And it provides in the present moment this comfort, like you were saying, or this sort of, you know, it's a real step into the unknown, to let go of our stories, to let go of, even if we can recognize and acknowledge that, maybe it's not serving me, but it's all I know. It's why people will hold on to traumas, stories, you know, beliefs about the self that are negative. And it does take a great deal of courage to be willing to make that step into the unknown. Because I think we're told to fear the unknown. We're told to, you know, there's all the stories about the monsters in the dark. And, you know, I think if you were to ask enough questions, it kind of plays into our fear of death, because what is the ultimate unknown outside of this physical life itself, if you haven't sort of made that connection with it? It's death.
And I just highlight this part of, is it the unknown I fear, or is it what I think I know about the unknown? Because technically 10 seconds from now is unknown. If I was really afraid of that, I'd be in constant terror. But I think I know generally what the most likely outcome is going to be. So if I'm depending on that knowing, I go, oh, well, I'm probably just going to be here with Evan. Why would I be afraid of that? But even that is an illusion. Could be struck down by lightning, you know? So there's an illusion of security and safety that people need to break through, that says, I somehow can ever know or control what's happening. You know, that control is real. Is one of the biggest myths of the ego. I can control my future. I can control the circumstances. I can control other people. It's up to me to create safety. That is the very thing that makes you feel out of control and not safe and insecure. So it's about accepting that I don't have control over the future because I don't need to, because I can actually accept all of the worst possible outcomes. I get judged, I die, I could look at that and go, so what? Once we get there, we're just moving through all the fears. We realize I've never been afraid of the unknown. I'm afraid of these things that I think may happen. But once I'm at peace with those, then the unknown becomes pure potentiality. Whoa, I wonder what's going to happen. How exciting, an adventure versus something that is here to bring up all of my fear. But that's the gift in it. The only way to get to the potentiality is to integrate all of the fears. And then on the other side, you're just left going, I'm so thankful that I don't need to control or think about the future anymore because that's exhausting. And now I'm this excited, energetic, passionate being. Well, I wonder what my future is going to be like. Probably pretty similar to this, and it might not be, but I have no resistance to that. So who cares? That's what I found you kind of land in, and you might be there for a long time. You might not, you might oscillate in between. It's different for everyone.
Right. Oh, you put that so beautifully. And we do only ever have this present now moment all of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And the way you put it in that, 10 seconds from now, you could be struck down by lightning. I feel like it does highlight that fact that anything outside of the present can be considered an unknown, but it always comes down to a much deeper root cause, which I think,
well, it's like when people go, well, no, I do have security. I have a job and that job gives me steady income. Okay. Are you, they're talking to me, they're not at their job. Are you at the job? No. So where's the job right now? Well, I go tomorrow. Well, where's tomorrow? Well, in my mind, it's a thought.
Right.
So I go, okay, so right now, there's no job. You don't work at a job. Can you absolutely know that you haven't been fired 5 seconds ago? And then after this call, you're going to get a call and be fired. Can you know that for sure? Ego wants to wrestle around. Well, I know. Well, let's really look at it. Do you know that for absolute certainty? No. That's all you need to know. It's all an illusion because that happens to people. So the moment we think anything of this world could give us safety and security, any circumstance, any person, we become enslaved by it. And that's actually the root of the insecurity. And that's why, like we said in the beginning, this detachment process is the same as enlightening yourself to reality.
Right. 100%. I feel like we're in a time right now where it feels like the collective is calling out, asking to be integrated. I guess since we're approaching sort of an hour, this could be sort of a good, wrap up conclusion question. What do you think it is that people are being asked of right now by, in terms of, because I do truly believe that we do construct our own purpose. We do construct our own mission. And we're at a time where we are I feel like at a turning point where we can make a sort of conscious paradigm shift, conscious step in our evolution, individually, collectively. What do you feel like people are being asked of right now, in particular, to embody or to look at, to sort of, everybody's obviously going to be different, but is there sort of a common theme or idea that you are noticing?
Well, in the terms of asking, at least from the perspective of, the universe or God. Yeah, I would say nothing, in the sense of there's no, God, all that is, the infinite, the one is going, everything's already here now. Every decision you've ever made has already played out. So I cannot ask you of something because I've already got it. I've already experienced, I'm experiencing that version of you in some way, some form, because it's infinite by definition. So, and that's the beautiful part about God is going, wait a second, are there no requirements? Is there no 10 commandments that I need to do in order to gain entry to heaven? Maybe I've never left heaven. Maybe that's the illusion. And actually, if I know there's nothing being asked from me, I can relax in the acceptance of myself right now. So that's one perspective I'll give. But in the sense of like, I think where you're going with the question, which is for the people that want to feel empowered and the people that want to feel more free, I think they're just really being asked to look at their shadow, to look at the unconscious mind. And why do I say that? Because the world right now is revealing as a reflection to all of us, all of its collective shadow, which is, from my observation, reflecting what we have all decided to do on a higher level, which is look at our own shadow, which really just means becoming more aware of who and what we are and who and what we think we are. So we're being asked to expand, if I had to put it in those terms, which for a lot of people, they think, well, that just means meditating or thinking positive. Well, the moment you think it means anything in the future, anything you got to do, it's already gone. It just means, if I'm stressed out, let me inquire. Let me become aware of that. Let me integrate that. If I'm not, great. That's it. That's life. If you want to live a free life, you don't have to. There's not one is more valuable than the other. They're just, the only thing that would make it more valuable is my story. And that's just an illusion. That's just a thought that I go, oh, that's true. So.
Right. No, I think that's a beautiful answer. And I've noticed, as I said earlier in the podcast, for myself, like sometimes it feels like I wish I could do more, yada, yada, yada. It's like, I don't need to do anything. I can just be, allow it to be as it is, and look at the shadows more in depth. Because I think we all have we have blind spots. We all have shadows. We all have things that we can explore on a deeper level, but just do it from a space of being, heart-centered consciousness.
Yeah. It's like that moment of, I need to do more. I need to do more. You need to be thinking that, in that moment, that's what you actually need.
Yeah.
Because it's happening. So it's kind of like, oh, I don't need to even resist coming to a place of going, oh, I need to do more. If that ends up happening, great. That must be what needs to happen, because that's happening. So, who would I be without a story of that's wrong or bad or needs to change? Well, I would just notice it.
Right.
And then I'd make a choice. And that's really the, pointing back to the freedom again of like, some of these thoughts, some of these beliefs, they might not just go away, but they might come up and you might just see through them, just like a joke. Go, oh, I remember when I used to believe that, and have a laugh. And that's the Buddha nature right there, is laughing at the illusion.
Right. Definitely. And I've been embodying that myself. It's like, I look at the world, put a smile on my face, dance a little bit, and just laugh and love. So Brandon, this has been awesome. This hour really just kind of flew by.
It zipped
by. Where would you want to send the listeners, to interact with you, check out some of the great work you're doing?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for this podcast. Super fun. So inspired by all the other guests that you've had on this podcast. So feel honored to be joined with them and yourself. My Instagram, I'm most active. So Brandon.Bozarth is my Instagram handle. And then, you can go to my website, brandonbozarth.com. We are launching the next round of the 13 in a couple of months, which is really our body of work, collective body of work and retreat that we do. And there's also a membership there. But all of that information for that community is on my website, which is just my first and last name.
Awesome. Yeah. And I'll put that all in the episode description. So, they can just scroll on down. If they're feeling lazy, it's right there for them to just do a little click. It's awesome, man. It was such a pleasure to have you on. I mean, I'd love to have you back on in the future. If you'd ever be interested, because this conversation I felt like could have kept going for a couple more hours, but so it was truly a pleasure, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
No, I appreciate you too. All right. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah.